Hello and welcome to this conversation on anxiety professionals. In my new book, Embracing Anxiety, I talk about lots of things that have to do with anxiety, but also what if you have a job where you need to have your anxiety on track or on the job all the time? And I invited my friends and colleagues in DEI, which is dynamic emotional integration, to come and talk about what it is to be an anxiety professional. And on the top of my screen is Amanda Ball, and she is a licensed DEI trainer and consultant. She also teaches at Empathy Academy. And below us, there's Marion Langford, who is also a licensed DEI trainer and consultant. And next to me is my husband, Tino, who is a licensed DEI trainer and my editor for all my books. So he understands this book even if he hasn't read it for a while. and I invited these three people specifically because they are all anxiety professionals. And Marion does a lot of consulting, so she is scheduling and thinking ahead continually. The job of anxiety is to help you gather your resources, think ahead, and arrive in the future with everything you need. It's a very magical emotion. And Amanda is quite, she's like a little shrine where anxiety likes to visit. And Tino is a, what would you call it? He's a healthcare professional, but he is sort of out in the future watching for problems, right? So he is continually watching to make sure that everything is going to go well and we arrive in the future safe, right?
Yeah.
So
More so now.
More so now, yeah, during the pandemic. And I wanted to ask you, Amanda, you had a job that you were talking about that was specifically anxiety focused. What was that one?
A big part of my job, this was my first job after college, a big part of that job was event planning, and we had 3 major events every year. And I was in the development department, and I think because of my anxiety skills, after about a year or so, they started assigning me as the main lead of the events because they knew, I could get stuff done. So I really liked that, but I also realized that, especially getting close to like the main event, the anxiety would just be really intense and other things would drop, like my own self-care. I started struggling with setting boundaries. At that point, the other team members would get involved too, and just all of us as a team would just have really intense anxiety and we'd lose our other skills. It was really hard for us to ground. Our communication with each other would get snappy. And, like the story in your book, during leading up to the event and then right after it, we would go out drinking as a team together. And that's how we sort of dealt with all of the really intense anxiety and downregulated from it. Yeah. Since then, I've of course learned skills because I really like high-end anxiety jobs. It's something that is a specialty of mine. So I enjoy it, but I've learned skills to not let it, sort of get in the way of my own self-care and, grounding and setting boundaries and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Did you have any support in your workplace? Did anybody know to take care of all of you as anxiety professionals, or were you just left to your own devices?
Mostly the former, mostly not much support. Mm-hmm. Not because they were like bad people or anything. It's just we didn't know. We didn't have skills. Yeah. Certainly leading up to the event and the day of the event, it was all hands on deck. But for the most part, it was all on me to figure out all the details and, mm-hmm. make sure everything's running smoothly. And yeah, so that was hard.
Thank you. Now, Marion, you run your own business, so you would be the person setting up the support for the anxiety professional who is you. How have you done that? Have you learned different ways to support yourself when in a high anxiety situation?
I have. I mean, in a lot of ways, I have a lot to thank anxiety for because it's been a powerful teacher. because part of my work is very creative, and creativity is one of those things that doesn't always respond to the time you put in. It's really about when are the ideas going to gel. And I had to learn how to have use my anxiety in a way that would give me the best likely outcome of having the ideas gel in a timely way. So from that perspective, it's been a really good teacher. Um, the other thing that's a big piece of the work that I do is it's just pure physical preparation. So in that way, it was a lot like Amanda's experience. You know, event planning is just so many physical details, and details is not one of my strengths. So again, anxiety's been a tremendous ally, because I've made, I've had to learn that it's not just a snap. It's not an hour to do it. It can be 3 hours just to pull the physical materials together for a workshop. So yeah, I've really appreciated the learning that I've gotten from the times when my anxiety goes high, I know I'm in trouble. Like now I know if I'm feeling really anxious, it's because there isn't enough time. And I really have to then bring in other skills and other supports to navigate and negotiate my time.
And that's huge. A lot of people, when they get to that place, they forget how to ask for help. They forget to delegate. Because they're going so intensely and so hard. And that's when what Amanda talked about, the snappy behaviors, whereas people just they bite each other. I was thinking about you and your anxiety. Now, something that I will tell you about Mr. Tino Plank is that he is very, very regimented. You're very regimented in. Is that for me? It looks like it's an anxiety management practice that you're doing so that you have stability.
So I'll try to answer that by saying I don't know whether I chose to befriend anxiety or it embraced me, or it's just. But I have learned to, yes, have skills that help me separate the panic from the anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
So I've done project management and quality improvement for almost 3 decades. And so much of that is future planning. And so, yes, I'm a very detailed person with lots of to-do lists and things like that. But I had a job previously where I was also traveling. So, I was trying to mesh my schedule with other people's schedules and flight schedules and weather and everything else and you have seen that was panic. And, I got to the point where there was just too much for me to manage that was out of my control. And so I've learned, or again, I don't know whether anxiety embraced me, to show me that I could use my anxiety to control the pieces that I could control, that I could befriend it, and I could manage things skillfully by having, tasks and processes and organization.
Yeah, I was thinking something I wrote in the book is what to do. I went to a place where people didn't realize they were anxiety professionals. I was consulting in a business. And one of the things that their boss did would continually come in with great new ideas that would change everything. And this boss was constant with it. And I came in as a consultant as one of this boss's great new ideas, right? So I go and meet these people and they're kind of exhausted, right? They've kind of had it with the changes. And I realized that anxiety professionals, and I wrote this down, they need fewer changes. They need fewer surprises, because anxiety is making sure that everything is like stable. And if someone's changing things up constantly, or surprising you with, we're going to use balls instead of chairs. You're like, what in the world is happening? And anxiety professionals need to have control. They like having someone come in and give them balls instead of chairs is not control. They don't have their autonomy, and that's going to increase their anxiety for no good reason at all. So if you have anxiety professionals, it's so important to know how to support them. And if you are an anxiety professional, like Marion, working in your own business, then you have to put on your anxiety hat and see, what would Marion like today? Because she's working so hard.
And I think the other thing, Carla, that's been so interesting with the pandemic is that all of the assumptions that helped me run my work and my business have had to be revisited because my clients are also working with a different set of assumptions. So we've had some really, this is where communication is just so important because there's been some real surprises, and I do all my design and all my planning based on certain assumptions, and when those aren't true, there's some last minute things, and I'm good with last minute, but not 100% turnover of my expectations. So yeah, so yeah, so I absolutely agree. The being able to predict and actually nailing things down is what can be nailed down early. Like, I like to have my dates, my times, my place, those things in place, because there's a lot of things that are unknown. You know, how will the people show up? Will they show up? What will the weather be like that day, going to Tino's point? You know, will there be a traffic problem? You know, when I used to travel, like, there was, you know, can I have your cell number so I can call you, you know, need be. So there was just a lot of details to always address. And so the fewer details I had to manage, the better.
Yeah. Well, thank you to all three of you for bringing a little bit of your anxiety expertise. And if you're an anxiety professional, well, congratulations. It can really help you a lot not to burn out, to learn about what you're doing and how to support this amazing emotion, which brings a lot of energy with it. And the closer to your deadline is going to bring a lot more energy. So how do you keep from spinning out and work with your anxiety instead of sort of being worked over by it? That is the, okay, here we go. This is my sales thing. That is the message of embracing anxiety. Thanks so much, Amanda and Marion and Tino, for bringing the anxiety profession to reality. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.